Okay, so get this. We're doing a deep dive today into some pretty wild statements, and they're coming from President-elect Trump.
Ooh.
Yeah, so he's been saying some stuff about potentially, like, acquiring Canada,
Wow.
Greenland, the Panama Canal.
Really?
He even wants to rename the Gulf of Mexico,
Hmm.
like, geopolitical monopoly.
Okay.
But obviously, some very real consequences. And all of this is from one single article, actually,
Oh.
from NBC News that was
Uh-huh.
published recently. So there's definitely potential for, some bias and stuff. But let's unpack it.
Yeah, let's dive in. I mean, these pronouncements, even if they sound a little out there, they give us a window into like how Trump thinks strategically
Right.
and his view of America's role, on the world stage.
Okay, so let's start with Canada,
Yeah.
our friendly neighbor to the north.
Sure.
So Trump has repeatedly suggested that Canada should just become like the 51st state.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he even posted a picture on Truth Social, his social media platform.
Right.
The U.S. flag draped over both countries.
Okay.
Is he serious?
It's tough to say, really,
right.
but he has mentioned this multiple times. It seems like more than a joke, maybe. It kind of reflects his whole America First philosophy
Mm-hmm.
and his belief in what they call transactional diplomacy,
Right.
deal making.
So he's been saying that the U.S. spends billions to protect Canada through NORAD.
Okay.
That's the joint U.S.-Canadian organization that does aerospace warning
Right.
for North America.
Right.
And she's saying that he's not happy with Canada's defense spending.
So they're not
They're not pulling their weight.
pulling their weight, right?
He even joked about Wayne Gretzky becoming like a governor
Oh, wow.
if Canada joined.
Okay.
Well,
It's interesting because Trump really views the world through this economic lens.
right.
He values strength, self-reliance. He expects other countries to contribute their fair share.
Okay, but Canada, they're a sovereign nation.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, they have their own identity, their own interests. It's not like a real estate deal.
Right.
You can't just like buy out your neighbor.
No, you can't just acquire them.
And it's not just talk. Like, remember what happened with Justin Trudeau?
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
His term ended very abruptly,
it did.
partly because of clashes with Trump.
Overtrade, defense spending, yeah.
Exactly. And then Trump threatened to put a 25% tariff on Canadian goods.
Which really shows you how these, statements can have a tangible effect
Yeah.
on international relations.
Okay, let's move north
Okay.
to Greenland. Now, I was really surprised that Trump is interested in buying Greenland again. I thought that was just a weird thing from his first term.
Yeah, a passing whim.
Yeah.
It seems like he hasn't let it go.
Oh, wow.
And this time, it could be more than words.
Really?
His son, Donald Trump Jr., is actually in Greenland right now filming a documentary.
Wow.
And there are reports that some incoming White House officials are there too.
So why Greenland? What is the strategic importance?
Well, Greenland is the world's biggest island,
Right.
and it's in a very strategic spot in the Arctic.
Yeah.
And with, climate change, the ice is melting.
Right.
There's more and more interest in the region.
In terms of...
Resources, shipping routes.
Right. So Trump sees Greenland as a potential asset for the U.S.
Exactly.
economically and strategically.
Both.
Yeah.
He says it would be valuable for national security, especially, with Russia being so close. And of course, there's potential for, extracting resources. He's even questioning if Denmark has a right to own the island.
Wow, okay. And if Denmark says no?
If they don't play ball, I bet he's going to pull out the tariffs.
Right, of course, yeah.
He's already threatened to put tariffs on Denmark if they block Greenland's independence or any sale to the U.S.
It's like his go-to move, right?
It is. It shows his transactional approach to foreign policy.
Yeah.
He sees economic leverage as a key to getting what he wants.
Yeah. Okay, so from the icy plains of Greenland, let's go somewhere a little warmer.
Okay.
The Panama Canal.
All right.
This is like a major artery for global trade, right?
Absolutely. It connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans.
Right.
It handles tons of cargo traffic every year.
Yeah.
It's essential for commerce globally.
Yeah.
And the U.S. has a long history with the canal. We controlled it for a lot of the 20th century.
Right. But now Trump's saying we're being overcharged to use it.
Oh.
Yeah, he says Panama is violating some deal.
Yeah.
And that China is taking over. He even said that Panama asked the U.S. for $3 billion for repairs.
So what's happening there?
Yeah.
Well, in 1999, the U.S. gave control of the canal back to Panama.
Okay.
It was under a treaty signed during the Carter administration.
Right.
That treaty gave the U.S. the right to defend the canal's neutrality, but Trump's saying that agreement isn't being honored.
And he's also talking about China's influence there.
He is. But Panama's president denies any Chinese involvement and completely rejected the idea of the U.S. taking control again. So there's a definite disagreement about what's really going on there.
So we've got Canada maybe becoming a state, Greenland, now this Panama Canal thing. It doesn't stop there, though.
Oh, no.
Get this. Trump actually said we should rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
He said what?
He said it has a beautiful ring to it.
Wow. This might seem small compared to the other stuff.
Yeah.
But it shows a theme in Trump's worldview, wanting to show American dominance.
Right.
Reshaping the world how he sees it.
So he's trying to, like, leave his mark.
Yeah, from borders to entire bodies of water. And this renaming thing, even if it's symbolic, could have real effects.
Yeah.
It might be seen as provocative by Mexico.
Right.
And other countries in the region. Could damage relationships, make it harder to cooperate.
And don't forget his issues with Mexico about migration. He's still talking tariffs for Mexico and Canada if they don't cooperate on border security.
Right.
It's like tariffs are his answer to everything.
It's his go-to, yeah. And that's where things get worrisome, honestly. Okay. What Trump does could have all these unintended consequences.
Right.
Trade wars, diplomatic standoffs, even military conflict. Not respecting international agreements and institutions could really erode global cooperation and trust.
Yeah.
Making it harder to deal with the big problems.
Right.
Like climate change or nuclear weapons. Like he's using a playbook from like way back when,
Right.
when America was the only superpower. But the world's different now. We've got China and others rising up, challenging America.
Right. So it's not just geopolitics or economics, is it?
No.
He's also appealing to a certain part of his supporters.
Exactly.
The ones who feel like America's lost its way.
The people who think America needs to be more assertive on the world stage?
Yeah.
Absolutely. His statements resonate with those who think America's been taken advantage of.
Right.
In trade deals, international agreements, all that. He taps into this feeling of like grievance and resentment.
Yeah.
And promises to bring America back to its glory days.
So can he actually do that?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
Make America great again. Can he really turn back time?
Right.
The world's a lot more complex now than it used to be.
Right.
It's all connected. And his actions during his first term, they showed he's willing to shake things up.
Yeah.
Even if it means upsetting allies or making things less stable globally.
So what could happen with all this? I mean, we're talking about redrawing borders.
Right.
Taking over important waterways. Tariffs everywhere. It sounds chaotic.
Yeah, the potential for things to go wrong is definitely there.
Okay.
His actions could make other countries mad.
Yeah.
Leading to trade wars, diplomatic problems, maybe even military conflict. We might even see new trade groups and security arrangements forming that don't include America.
Wow.
That would weaken American influence, make the world less stable.
It feels like he's playing a very dangerous game.
It does.
With really bad potential outcomes for everyone. And what's scary is that he doesn't seem to have a plan.
Right.
It's more about looking strong and keeping campaign promises.
Right.
Not thinking about the long-term effects.
You've hit on a key point there. Trump often acts impulsively, driven by a need to show he's in charge.
Okay.
He sees the world as this zero-sum game. Like, if one country wins, another has to lose.
Yeah.
That's how he approaches everything, from trade to military alliances.
So what does this mean for us?
Right.
Regular people just trying to understand what's happening in the world.
It's definitely a lot to take in. It can feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
It means we have to stay informed,
Okay.
be engaged, think critically. We can't just take what we hear at face value.
Right.
We need to dig deeper, question things, consider other points of view.
Okay.
We need to know the history, what could happen, and why these things are happening.
Like we have to become our own deep divers, constantly searching for information, trying to make sense of all the news and opinions.
Exactly. And we need to talk about these things with each other. Engage with people who might see things differently. Try to find common ground. We need to hold our leaders accountable.
Okay.
Demand transparency and responsible decisions. The future of global relations really depends on all of us being involved.
So we can't just sit back and watch.
No, we can't. The stakes are too high.
So to sum up, we've talked about a lot. Canada maybe becoming a state, the interest in buying Greenland, the Panama Canal situation, and the Gulf of Mexico renaming thing. It's a lot. And it doesn't paint a very reassuring picture
No.
of what another Trump presidency might look like. Is there one big takeaway you want our listener to remember?
I think the most important thing is that what Trump says and does, even if it doesn't actually happen, shows a possible change in how the world works.
Okay.
We might go back to more aggressive types of nationalism.
Yeah.
International institutions might get weaker, and there's a higher chance of conflict, especially if other countries follow his lead. This affects everyone, not just the politicians and world leaders.
Right. So we're at the end of this deep dive, and I'm wondering, what happens next? Where does all this lead? Will Trump actually try to do these things? And how will the rest of the world react?
You've got the right questions, and honestly, we don't have all the answers yet.
Right.
What we do know is that Trump is really good at disruption, at being unpredictable.
Yeah.
He often does things that nobody expects and challenges how things have always been done. The world's watching, and the stakes are incredibly high.
So it's like we're at this, crossroads.
Yeah.
Right? Do we, go towards a future with, cooperation and diplomacy?
Right.
Or do we go down this path of, isolationism and conflict? The choices, I think, that are made in the next few months, years, are going to have a huge impact.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we are at a pivotal moment, really a pivotal moment in history.
Right.
And it's bigger than just Trump, right?
Right.
You see other countries dealing with, rising nationalism, the challenges of a world where there's not just one big power.
Right.
The rules are changing, and it's not clear what the new, world order is going to look like.
So where does that lead, us?
Right.
What can we do?
Yeah.
We're just individuals.
Yeah.
In the face of these, massive global shifts,
Yeah.
it's easy to feel powerless. Yeah.
It is, yeah. It's easy to feel like you're just watching all this happen.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to remember that we're not just, passive bystanders here.
Okay.
We have a part to play in shaping the future.
So what can we actually do?
Well, I mean, first of all, we can stay informed, right? We can educate ourselves about what's going on, understand the different perspectives, have real discussions with people. We can hold our leaders accountable, demand transparency, demand that they make responsible decisions.
So it's about being an active citizen, right? Not just someone who reads the news.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We can also support organizations that are working for peace,
Right.
for diplomacy, for international cooperation.
Okay.
We can make our voices heard through peaceful protests, through advocacy, even through how we vote.
It's about recognizing that, we're all connected.
Right.
Our actions have an effect, and we share responsibility for making a more peaceful, just world.
Well said. Well said. And remember, even small actions can make a difference.
Okay.
Never underestimate what one person can do.
So we're wrapping up this deep dive into these, kind of surprising things President-elect Trump has been saying.
Yeah.
And I'm left feeling a sense of, urgency, but also maybe a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
A weird time, lots of uncertainty and change. But it's also a time where, we can make a difference.
Right. There's opportunity.
You can shape the future, choose cooperation and diplomacy,
Yeah.
build a world where everyone can do well.
That's a great way to put it. It is a challenging time, but it's also exciting. It's up to all of us to, step up and create the future we want.
Yeah, that's a great message to end on. I hope our listeners will take this information, think about it, and keep exploring this, really complex and always changing topic. So until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and stay hopeful.